point, I would show you our other distinguished speakers.
COVID-19 day. Okay, let me put it this way. There is a digitization, there is digitalization, and there is digital transformation. I'll take it out again. There is digitization, digitalization, and of course, digital transformation. So what we have seen before COVID is we have seen a lot of businesses who are digitized, who probably have system and everything in place just to support the business. They have the technology, the tools to support the business, but how well they take advantage of this technology. So from there, you move to digitalization, which of course includes your Office 365, having a process in place, using technology to drive the business. But the third stage is how do you now transform to digital transformation of your business? And to do this, we go back to the digitalization. How are you leveraging on that to actually acquire customer data? Having said that, The more data you have is what is going to take you through that journey of digital transformation, where you begin to use business to transform where you begin to use technology to transform your business. I would like to talk about quickly about 5 areas, and I will eventually double click. Maybe during the next question and answer, I can speak further. Looking at it from demand and supply perspective, again, we're talking about technology. I've said that let's step aside for a while, and like Tommy was saying towards the end of our presentation in terms of people, culture, and organization. Looking at it from demand and supply perspective, the products you have today, what are they? What are the demand for the products you have? Then you probably want to now begin to say that, how do I customize the product I have? It's not one cap fit all product you have in the market. How do you leverage your data that you have? For example, if I get home, I'm only interested in watching news. I'll probably go to CNN and go to other news channels, Fox or whatever. Why do I need to subscribe to movie channel? Why do I need to subscribe to sport channel? So the same thing with the product and service you have. Based on the data you have, you could actually customize the experience for different customers. Again, you are leveraging on data. And how do you obtain the data? By leveraging on the technology that we're talking about. The second one is look at your supply. How do you expand the supply to take it to the market? How much more can I do? How do I expand my supply? We need to begin to think of moving from tangible to the intangible. We need to move from the physical to the virtualization. We need to move away. You don't need to actually acquire technology to sit in your office. There are a lot of cloud-based technology that you can leverage on. So moving from tangible to intangible is the next stage of technology adoption. The third one is we now need to begin to analyze the cost of doing business. We need to look at how technology can help in terms of the cost of doing your business, the cost of getting the goods to the hands of the customer. How do you optimize the entire process, leveraging of technology? The fourth is how do you develop new market for your business? And the fifth is how do you come up with a compelling proposition? Now, going back to the first one, you need to have a very good understanding of how do you identify economic mechanism of disruption. So when you bring technology into the space, obviously there's going to be disruption. What is the economic mechanism of that disruption you're talking about? What and what will it cost you? And what are the benefit advantage at the end of the day? If you are able to tick all these boxes, at the end of the day, what you have is a new proposition. And when you have a new proposition, like the speaker was during the last session was talking about, don't limit yourself to what you're doing today. When you come up with a value proposition, when you are able to identify the economic mechanism of disruption, simply you come with a new value chain completely, which means you move away from the traditional business that you're doing to a completely new value chain that you have created. When you create that new value chain, which is technology driven, which you have now taken advantage of artificial intelligence, cloud, IoT to support your business, then you create an entirely new value chain. That is what I call Blue Ocean strategy. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Ayo. That was interesting. Olu, what would you like to add to what Dr. Ayo has said?
Thank you. Again, to my co-panelists, good to see everyone. Just to keep it simple, there's analog tech and digital tech. So let me just focus on the digital. So when I'll be referring to is the digital tech. What digital technology does is that it reduces the cost of transactions dramatically. So the best way to illustrate this is look at just mobile banking. I will have had to go to a branch. I will have had to travel, take a car, employ a driver, and a branch will need to be built. But what will have made me to travel miles, I can do it for 1,000th of the cost through my mobile phone. I can do it quickly. So it's important to zero in on the tech, but the economics of technology is the transaction cost that it reduces. And there are two ways in which it could do that and the opportunity that it creates, and we could apply that to our business. One is that it could make business more efficient. by helping us to get more out of existing markets. The other part of it is that it could also create new markets where we thought market did not exist. So for example, what we have seen with things like, I think the example of Uber and a lot of, or even the hotel business like Airbnb, technology, because of low transaction cost and the new business model of reaching markets where we thought markets don't exist. All those cars that were out there that no one thought were useful, someone converted them into a transport business by bringing hidden demand and hidden supply together and expanded markets. So that's what economics will call disruption. Creating new markets where we thought it did not exist and expanding markets where we thought markets did not exist, two new business models. And before you know it, those new markets begin to get bigger and they become bigger than the traditional business, just like today. Airbnb are bigger and Uber, in terms of valuation, is bigger than General Motors or bigger than Airbnb, is bigger than Marriott. How that applies to various things that we see. And the relevance of that, particularly for Nigeria, our country, is that if you look at our country where the commercial, a lot of our people are largely excluded from our commercial market. I will talk more about that later on. We cannot, as a business, continue to run a country where our commercial organizations are relevant to the 50% of our people. That is something that technology can solve. And we can see that in many areas. We'll talk more about it in the course of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olu. I think it can't be overemphasized, the advantages of technology. Also to summarize, you had mentioned business efficiency, and you've used the clear example of internet banking and visiting the bank physically. I think that's very essential, and anybody can actually understand that example, and it drives home the point. I would now like to take a few questions and direct them specifically to us. I will, of course, be starting with Olatomiwa. In the earlier session, the panelists had talked about great resignation, and that's something that is very synonymous even with the tech sector or tech industry. And the question really is, how can businesses strike a balance between technology to minimize waste and the risk of labor turnover, considering the volatility of workforce in recent times?
Thank you very much for that question. It's really an important question because it affects everyone, no matter your sector. There's a lot of people, in fact, talent now realize that they are empowered. They have the power to choose, unlike what had happened prior to COVID. There are different ways to look at it. First is the part of using technology. There are processes within an organization that are repeatable, that does not really require human intervention at all, every stages. So it's important to look at how do you leverage, bot technology to automate those processes that can actually be done using augmented reality or, artificial intelligence. That will also speak to what Olu said earlier on, significantly reduce costs because they will continue to work on their own. You just need to continue to improve on it, with technology updates and upgrades, and if required, do some iteration on them. The second part, especially on people, is the culture. Organizations need to look at the culture of ensuring that people have that flexibility and that impact on the attractiveness of the organization for people to continue to work. And digitizing is part of what will make it possible, that people don't need to have to be physically in the office all the time to work, because now they can share their time with somewhere else and still work. So they know that they're able to do that. So it gives more retention rate. And we've seen that organizations that give such flexibility have higher retention rate. And yes, people still need to move. So that's why it's important for organizations to continue to have a solid skilling plan on how to skill and reskill employees, like a revolving door. So for us, for example, at Microsoft, we realize that skilling is really important. We've been doing skilling for years, but now we know that it is much more important for sustainability in the current business environment. So we do a lot of skilling, not only for us internally, for our partners, for our customers, even for the ecosystem, because we know that the pool of talent coming out also needs to be relevant to the business environment. So organization must have a skilling strategy on how to continue to skill and reskill existing employee and new employee as well. And lastly is also the impact of ensuring that organizations look at what is important to them in terms of putting employee to areas where they have a lot of impact. The world today is looking at not just only work, but purpose. What is the purpose of the organization? How does it align with the employee's purpose? How do you motivate people to look at work beyond just earning salary, but also the impact that they make and the excitement that it creates for them? So those are different ways to ensure that organizations continue to retain talent, but more importantly is also leveraging technology to create flexibility for people to be able to work and automating processes within the organization that can help them to continue even when there is some level of iteration or the other within the organization.
Thank you very much, Ola. Before Dr. Ayo and Olu would give their perspective on that question, I would also like to drive the conversation around productivity, because this is something you clearly mentioned around work culture, even though you haven't called it productivity. So outcomes, in driving work culture, rather than just have people that earn salaries. So Dr. Ayo and Olu, I would like to take your view on this, and please also try and show how this labor turnover that we have in the industry can focus more around productivity rather than just people who come to work to earn their salaries.
All right, thanks. I will speak from experience point of view. After COVID, we were in post-COVID era. So what happened is suddenly people started working from home. I struggled to comprehend that initially, even though I'm a technology person. I was like, we moved into a new, bigger office. And a few months later, there was COVID-19. And I was asking myself a question: why do we have to move into a bigger office if I knew COVID-19 was going to come? So what happened was people started working from home. Then later on, people started traveling. Like 3 or 4 of my colleagues actually left for Canada, 2 left for UK. These are very, very critical skills to success. So what I said is, when you get to the UK, when you're in Canada, it will take you another 3, 5, 6 months to settle in. Don't bother to drop your resignation letter. Keep working. After all, during COVID-19, we're not physically in the office. So again, when you talk about productivity, we used to call it work-life balance. The HR call it work-life integration, whichever way you want to call it. And you are looking at it from generational perspective. We have a new set of generation now that what is important to them may not even be the money we're talking. It's about work-life integration. How do they have their life? And you realize that people are actually more productive working from home, especially in this technology space. So we've had people who left the country who have now said that, you know what, hold on to your job, we'll keep paying you. When we need you, make yourself available. And we realize that people are still contributing. So now, taking it to organization perspective, and this is something we've been telling most of the organization we deal with, for example, that why do you need to hire this number of engineers? Why do you need to put this number of engineers on your payroll? So organization now need to start to consider what we call economies of scale in terms of make or buy. What do you want to do? Analyze or make or buy decisions and begin to say that, do I need to keep these 12 engineers or 50 engineers on my payroll, or can I share these 50 engineers with 3, 4 other organizations? Do I talk to a system integrator and outsource these services? So I tell customers these days that don't let us start discussing about, I want this technology, I want this technology, I want to do this. I think the focus of most organizations will now come back to what we call SLA, service level agreement. This is what I need to achieve. I need to achieve 99% of my service to be up and running at any point in time. How do I get there? So if you need to now outsource the service to a system integrator who probably will be sharing the same results with 5, 6, 8 other customers. And at the end of the day, what you see is significant drop in your OpEx at the end of the day. So you can achieve much more without spending much more, still leveraging on technology. They're looking at it from economies of scale perspective to be able to achieve your internal service level agreement and of course your external service level agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ayo. Olu? Please.
Yes, I will spin it in another direction. That
please go ahead.
In the old life, you needed a factory approach to managing people where you see them and you have a horsewhip to beat them if they are not working. Leading organizations with purpose has never been more important in these days when we don't see ourselves. All the data shows that organizations that are driven by purpose, where people are driven by a larger ideal beyond just a pay, tend to deliver more because you don't need to see them because they feel part of something bigger than themselves. That is one of the most important lessons of this period. The way we let people transactionally is important. Of course, we need to hold people accountable to deliverables. But more importantly, if we don't see ourselves, that we should work for a larger ideal, a bigger purpose to change society, to impact our environment, especially for our young talents, that has become more important today. And that's one way to address productivity, to get a lot out of people, because they will actually do much more than we expect, even when we don't see them. Thank you.
Thanks, Olu. So based on that, given what you've said, what would you say is the role of organizations in the bigger conversation on how technology governs the impacts and the impact of society?
Thank you. I will double click further on the discussion of purpose and link it to tech. I mentioned earlier that if you look at Nigeria today, we've got 91 million poor people out of about 200 million people. About 50% of Nigerians are poor. If you look at banking penetration, it's about 50%. If you look at broadband penetration, it's about 50%. That's a proxy for our commercial markets in Nigeria. Our traditional commercial analog tech markets have largely served 50% of our people. And in these days, we cannot afford a situation where we continue to run a country and a business leaders who believe that the current market, our duty is only to serve Lagos and serve people like Lagos. We need to build a commercial business model that serves more Nigerians. The way to do that, of course, is to use tech. I mentioned the issue of leveraging the low-cost transaction, the low-cost to serve model that digital technology can bring to unlock markets where we think markets don't exist. From housing to education to agriculture, you see a large problem of market and share exclusion in Nigeria, where a lot of our people are not served by our traditional commercial markets. And that is what technology can do. Technology can help us to unlock this, to solve this large problem of high market and share exclusions that we have in Nigeria and bring a lot of people that are not in a commercial market into market. And what does that do? First, we expand our markets. We create prosperity for more people, more demand, and everybody. Nigeria will be a much better country. So that is what tech is about. That is about impact. So we're back in the days of how are we leading our organization? What does tech mean? Tech for profit's sake or tech for profit and impact? It has to be tech for profit and impact because we will underutilize the purpose and the science and the greatness of digital technology if we don't solve the problem of the high rate of market exclusions that we have in Nigeria today. There's so much to do, from education, where we need to find new models to bring a lot of people who are not going to school and deliver new use technology to bring them back to solve agricultural problem, to solve problems in many areas in payments. And that's what we do proudly at OP. I should mention that. Building a financial rail to reach many of the markets, MSMEs and individuals that are excluded, for which we expect that other partners will ride on that rail, so that we create a prosperity that is much more widely shared for Nigerians, and a country that we're all proud of, where prosperity is much more shared by more people. Thank you.
Thank you, Olu. Dr. Ayo, before I take your view, I would like to mention that Jane has joined us. Jane, could you please say something so we know that you're here?
I am here, and my sincere apologies for being late, but I thought it's better to be late than never.
Welcome,
Hello,
Jane.
Hi, Olu.
Hi. Okay, so Dr. Ayo, could you please go ahead?
Okay, I think I agree with what Olu is saying in terms of the transformation, and then going by what for me, what I was saying about there are repetitive tasks within the office environment. And I remember we deployed a particular solution to a commercial bank. What they asked us for was to automate the process. A simple, well, not a simple process, the process of giving out loan, for example. So we look at it critically, we came up with an application, for example. So we realize the typical process of obtaining a loan in a bank. They probably need to know how old are you. Maybe you are 40, 45. They look at your present earning and your repayment plan for maybe 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, as the case may be. They also want to look at other sources of funding. They also want to do background check on you in terms of your credit, worthiness. Then after they are done with this, the relationship officer probably take it to his or her boss. The boss will ratify it. From there, it goes to the next boss, who will ratify it. The typical bank, they'll have a credit committee where they will now take it to the committee. The committee will decide whether it's faithful or not. From there, depending on the amount, it goes to the CEO, and above certain threshold, it goes to the board, for example. So we have an application that when an individual comes around, we have enough data from you, we throw it into the system, within a pace of 10 minutes to 15 minutes. The system just check background check on you, look at how much you're earning, look at your history. It's integrated with your BDN. You could actually look at the entire activities you've been performing the last few years. This is, again, a typical use of data to transform business. So under 10 minutes, the application will say go or no go, do or no do. So again, to a large extent, this has caused the job of several people within the system. And this is part of the way we're leveraging on technology to transform business. So looking at it critically, all the mundane tasks that human beings will come to do, to a large extent, have been reduced. And if you look at the technology, more often than not, when you use artificial intelligence, like Toluwa was saying, more often from what we have seen, artificial intelligence is between 95 to 99% correct. And human is about 65% because of the degree of human error. So for all you care, whether we like it or not, the earlier we adopt the business transformation, leveraging on technology, the better. I was giving an example to my daughter over the weekend when we were discussing about, now you want to go to university. Where are you? What are you looking at? What do you want to do? And I try not to influence her decision. I was saying that in a modern day, there are analytics that actually predict in a typical court of law, before you get to the court of law, that this will be the likely outcome. We're looking at alternate to dispute resolution, technology, using technology for dispute resolution. We're using the same in the medical field as well. We have now looked at artificial intelligence, say that a typical patient is brought to the hospital. You are asked to go and do a test. After the test, what happens? You bring back the result of the test. The doctor will now need to analyze. Doctor will call on another doctor, call another doctor with 30 years experience. They come back together, they begin to say that I think this is what is happening. But in the modern day, leveraging on technology and artificial intelligence, we say that there are 5 million cases all over the world. The application for that is lying down that out of these 5 million cases, 3 million of them are women. Out of these 3 million, 1 million of them are from Africa. Out of this 1 million, 35% of them are your age bracket. So this is what happened. This is the recommendation. This is how it was treated. This is how this was done. Artificial intelligence gives you all the response within an hour. Whereas you want to go to professor of medicine, that will take them another 2 months to analyze the report from the test. So you're seeing how technology is beginning to shape our life. And more often than not, when artificial intelligence is making predictions, it's more than 90% accurate than human being. Human being, we have seen that's about 55, 65 in most cases accurate. That's better than accurate compared to artificial intelligence. So why this looks like a very big technology, it has been so simplified that regardless of your business, there is a way transformation is beginning to play around in terms of how you do your business. And the more you leverage on economy of scale, talking to the right cloud operator like Microsoft and the rest of them to see what can we do differently, the better journey into business transformation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ayo. I think the importance of AI and data analytics cannot be overemphasized. I think this is one very good area for prediction around customer behaviors, in organizations, and this is something that Terragon is very good with. At this point, I would actually like Jane to give her general view, given that she joined us, later on, and then we can continue with the questions. Hi, Jane.
Hi, sorry, I had to unmute myself there. So, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I think one of the things because I was listening to everyone, I was listening to Olu speak, and I was listening to Ayo, and I think they said some very immense thing. One of the things I'll say, especially working for Meta and coming from that angle, for those of you who don't know, Meta is Facebook, is the fact that technology, digitalization, however we want to call it, will disrupt the labor market. It will disrupt a lot in the things we do. But it will also bring a lot of profound economic change. And we already seen that. I think post-COVID, we're seeing that how many people still have the habit of going to a grocery store or going shopping. We are beginning to learn new habits, but it's also creating new jobs. And I hear Ayo speak to AI and artificial intelligence, which is one of the things I see a lot of people are skeptical about, because we are thinking that in creating new jobs means we are losing jobs. I think it's just changing the way we see the labor market. It's changing the way we see knowledge gap, in terms of what is relevant. And it goes way back to the industrial age. A certain kind of knowledge or skill set was required. But as we moved into the information age, we evolved. So what is important is that we're able to adapt. But in entirety, whatever is happening, we are disrupting, creating more new jobs, or destroying and modifying others. I think what's more important is that we have the power to bring impact. And I know Olu spoke to it. That is one of the things I know technology can do, is to bring impact. One of the amazing things I have seen working for Meta is the ability to use technology to create an inclusive environment. How many businesses could afford a TV ad or a radio ad? I ran a startup. Like, you're spending millions, and not every business could afford it. What the digital media or technology has done is level that playing field. So it's actually disrupting sectors. So any small business can be on Facebook or Instagram, TikTok or Snapchat. And for as little as 5,000 Naira, can place an ad and reach people wherever they are, anywhere in the world. That is the power of technology, to say, with just that mobile device and access to internet, we can give you access to an economic power or world way beyond your small location and irrespective of where you are as a business. So that's the amazing power of technology, to disrupt, but yet to create change, empower us economically, and create a future. So I would hand it back to you, Linda.
Okay, thank you, Jane. So on the back of that, right, how do organizations then align digital transformation with opportunities and threats? Clearly, we've mentioned a lot of opportunities in the course of our conversation, but there are a lot of threats that are inherent in technology, which has also limited a lot of organizations from adopting it, including things like security threats, change management. So these are certain threats that we see, right, from using technology.
So if I write on what I was saying, so especially for SMEs, we see that a lot on the African continent, because I've been doing a lot on the African continent. We see that the challenges owing to that, like you rightly said. It could be owing to administrative burden, talent acquisition, because they want to also have skill sets, they want to have staff that have skill set in that. Or it could be even retention. They're struggling to retain staff, the very skilled ones, because the market, we're seeing a shortage of talent or a demand of talent from the Western world. Europe and the Western world are actually demanding. And because there's a demand, there's a increased demand and the shortage of supply, we are losing very skilled talent. Or it could be even technology and management and finance, insufficient digital infrastructure. It could go on and on. But there are lots of ways companies can address it. If I speak to talent management, I think one key thing we found is that if you're able to train your talent, you're able to keep a certain percentage. There are no guarantees. You cannot convince everybody to stay with you. But if you're able to take a step forward and acquire, and help them acquire digital skills. So it could be you're using a cloud solution, and as part of that, you're training staff to use a cloud solution or to use digital solutions for their meetings, Zoom, whatever solutions you're using. In trying to equip your talent or your staff, there's a likelihood you would retain them. You will not see that drain as others are seeing. Other ways is also to invest in digital infrastructure. And I think the good thing is that we have solutions that are, with time, allowing people to scale. So allowing SMEs or businesses to be more efficient and reduce cost. A good example is solutions like AI solutions or cloud solutions that can allow you, it depends, it could be finance, accounting, whatever tools naturally you would. I think Aya was speaking to it, you would need 10 people to sign a document, send it here, send it there. Now you have accounting tools for payroll, you have accounting tools for expense. There are all kinds of accounting tools hosted in the cloud, hosted by different services company that you can tap into to even make your business more efficient or to reduce cost in your business. So that's just about two. But I like to structure it in three ways. I say if you're going to have a digital strategy or you're going to have a technology strategy, I would like you to look at the people, look at the process, then look at the infrastructure. The people is what I was referring to, making sure that your people are equipped, training them, giving them the right skills, creating a culture where technology is accepted, like encouraging more people to use cloud-based solutions rather than knocking on everybody's door and giving them paper to sign. Can they digitally sign it? Can it be hosted in the cloud? So the people is very important. Then the process is important. Making most of your processes digital will create a habit in the office for people to be akin to using technology and find it easier because it's like a habit in the company, and also equipping their skill set. Then thirdly is investing in infrastructure. I know it will sound like, when you hear investment in infrastructure, it sounds like we're talking millions. Sometimes it's not. There are all kinds of models out there, partnerships, subscriptions, all kinds of models that are possible. And they're very affordable solution because the good thing with technology is quite inclusive. So you can start investing right now. You don't have to create a whole big server database and, nothing like that. There are all kinds of cloud solutions and lightweight solutions for all kinds of, all sizes of business, but you have to start thinking about incorporating digital infrastructure in your business. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
We can hear you, yeah. Thank you very much, Jane. That was very insightful. So Ola, during your keynote presentation, we talked about culture. I would like to ask, so given that culture could be a big issue in tech adoption and taking that leap, what practical approaches can businesses adopt to embed a digital-first culture?
Thank you very much. I think, first of all, as I said earlier on, the motivation for adopting culture should be very clear. And that will actually provide the level of focus on how to drive the culture. And the culture is from bottom up. Just as Jen said earlier on, you have invested in technology, but people still come to your office to bring paper for you to sign. That shouldn't be the case. So leadership needs to drive the culture from the top and walk the talk. That's one. I think it's important to make that happen. Skilling is really important. And it doesn't have to be, everybody must have deep technical knowledge. The level of skill required to ensure that the used technology, employee use technology in a way that would drive business outcome must be defined and must be measured. And skilling should not be separate from organization strategy to make people to be interested in actually consuming content that will skill them up. It has to be tied to their own performance and actions. For example, in my organization, part of your performance is actually tied to the level of skill, trainings that you've consumed and how you are actually using those trainings to drive business outcome. So it's not just about telling people to get skill, but tying that to the business outcome. And today, everybody should actually be encouraged to leverage technology. There are a lot of technology solutions out there that empower everyone within the organization. I'll give an example of Microsoft Power Apps, which is a low-code, no-code solution that allow anyone. So far, you can use Excel or PowerPoint. You can use Power Apps to build applications that you can use within your department. So exposing people to such will also help to empower them, and they can see that it's possible for me to be able to use technology without having technical background. So those kind of, deliberate conversations, deliberateness in building, skilling into the organization's culture and driving the culture from top will really ensure that there is an enduring pattern within an organization on how to leverage technology and ensure that people use technology. So there should be policies that is driven at the top to empower people and to motivate them to use technology, learn technology, and use technology to drive successful business outcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ola. Thank you so much. So before we take the concluding views of our panelists, we would take some of the questions from the audience. The first question I have here is it necessary for all businesses to employ digital technology? Like the carpentry, welding, mechanics, painting industry, how are they going to adapt to technology use?
Yes,
so,
almost.
Okay.
Not every, there's a joke that everything is not going to turn into an hologram because we have gone digital. There'll be real world. And the real world, e-commerce, for example, need logistics. We need trucks, we need plumbers, we need people who are going to drive. What's important is that go back to the economics of tech. The cost of doing your plumbing business or finding a route to your market should significantly crash by 1,000% because of tech. Your reach of your market, where the definition of your market is no longer going to be a function of your arm's length, who can pay you and give you money, because that's what it means. Who knows you in your community? You can reach a wider market. That's what tech means. So that's how tech will impact on those businesses. And mind you, there might also be new ways to do plumbing, do carpentry. Just don't think carpentry will be done just by nail. I see a whole lot of things that are going to come. So also think about how you disrupt yourself, even if it's carpentry. There's a whole lot of interesting things that we cannot even think about in the years to come.
Well said. Thank you very much. We have another question. I would read out the question, then anybody from the panel can please take it. What is the impact of the digital transformation on the future of work, the parenting in Nigeria, insecurity in Nigeria, and the economy of Nigeria? Jane is smiling. Jane, do you want to?
I'm smiling because there's always, when we talk about the future of work.
Into 3 places. When you talk about parenting, I see Tommy is smiling, and Jane is smiling. So I'm sure they are very, very, when you talk about parenting, ladies especially, you have touched the soft spot. Maybe we shall allow them to.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. Well, I could start and anybody else can add. So when we talk about the future of work, and it kind of coincides with the fourth industrial revolution, if you look at the phases of how industries have evolved, it tends to give most people the impression that we're all going to lose our jobs to robots and AI. No, that's not what we are saying. We're saying the future of work means the way we work will evolve, and the skill sets that become relevant for some types of work will evolve. So for example, a lot of work that requires routine cognitive skills would evolve because it can now be done by AI. A good example of routine cognitive skills, a call center, So a call center job means you have a script. People call you, good morning, this is Jane from blah, 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 e-commerce store. How can I help you? First question, they tell you their problem. Okay, these are the possible options. Because it's routine, we can get a machine to learn, adapt, and answer. So we're saying those kinds of skills can be replicated easily by AI. And that's the future of work we're talking about, routine cognition. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to lose their job. It means that the skill set that will be required will now evolve. So people would acquire those kinds of skill sets. So the bigger question is, how are we preparing for it? I think that's how I rephrase it. How is Nigeria being aware? We see very strategic countries in our region, like in the Middle East, already thinking ahead. How do they prepare the workforce for this future? How do you equip them? So back to some of the examples Olu was mentioning. In the good old days, the lady that makes clothes on your street only makes clothes for people on your street. With technology, the lady that makes clothes on your street now makes clothes for people in the US, wherever the logistic distribution channel can give her access. Social media has given her an advertisement tool that she can distribute to that. It doesn't mean the lady will no longer make clothes. It means that her job has been enhanced. So the skill set might kind of evolve. So apart from learning how to make the clothes, she might have to then learn how to use social media to advertise. That's what we are saying. So in terms of the skill set required will now evolve. So I think the big question for us as a country is, how are we positioning? I know there's a whole digital media, there's a whole digital strategy from the government, but how are we implementing it? Because COVID for us was a wake-up call. It shows us we're nowhere there. We didn't have the digital infrastructure. So we saw that in the middle of COVID, some states literally shut down. There were a few states you could literally even work from home. You didn't even have broadband infrastructure. You couldn't make video calls to some people in some states. While others struggle when we were creating lockdowns, they couldn't even access a normal routine groceries they could access in places like Lagos because we had access to good digital infrastructure. So it's us as the people, as leadership, as the government, taking 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead to say, do we have the infrastructure? Do we have the skill set? Are we positioning our people to be ready for this future that is coming? Because it's coming. We can't change that. It's already coming. We will have to decide what we want to do. It's already coming. It's already been disrupted. So the future is actually here.
Audio, I can't hear her.
Oh, you couldn't hear me?
No, not you.
Okay.
The moderator.
Yeah, I couldn't hear the moderator.
I think she's muted now.
I think she might be muted. Moderator, I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, apologies about that. Okay, so I was going to ask if Olatomiwa would like to add anything.
Sure, happy to do that. I think someone said it earlier on that digital transformation or information technology is quite inclusive. And when talking about flexibility, parenting, this is what actually digital transformation can help to drive. I see, especially for, just as Ayo did mention, parenting is not only about women, but for most women, they see working from home a more family-friendly approach to work, because it gives opportunity to drop kids off at school. You can go back to pick them and still continue to work. So with technology now, and of course, COVID made us to realize that there is that thin line between work and, you know, the way we live. So we can do that. But how do you also ensure that that is done securely is also another concern. So some organization might say, oh, yes, we want people to work remotely, but we want to be sure that anything that they're doing is actually based on organization best practice. The other way to look at it is that technology begets more technology. Now that technology has given us opportunity to work remotely, technology is also providing us opportunity to ensure that we work securely. So there is a lot more security with cloud solution, that when organizations adopt remote or hybrid work, they give employee flexibility to work from anywhere. Either they want to work from home, or they're working from, you know, airport or on the road in the traffic on their way home. This is what is really important. And this is what also drives people to want to, you know, think about how do they leverage technology within the organization. And for me, I think the previous speaker did mention, most of the people that you interview today for job roles, when you ask them, do you have any question? The common question is, can I work remotely? And even when you log on to when you log on to your PC and you bring up your browser, most of the time you see, oh, work from home jobs in Nigeria. It's here, it's happening, and it is possible. We are already saying it. But Olu did mention something that is really important. Yes, IT is inclusive, but we also need to be more deliberate about driving more inclusion in the space, because today there are so many communities that are underserved in terms of, you know, internet penetration. How do we ensure that we provide low-cost internet access in such communities so that we can have more people, you know, participate in the digital economy? For example, Microsoft have an initiative called Airband solution that uses free TV white space to provide low-cost connectivity in underserved communities. So those kind of technology will make us to have more inclusion, where we have even people or mothers or fathers in remote location in Akure or Gombe, you know, being able to work anywhere in the world. And that may also continue to help us to diversify, focus on oil, because Nigeria have the human capital. Nigeria is the third largest population in terms of youth in the world, outside of China, behind China and India. So we have this massive human capital, but the focus is not going to be on the commercial cities alone. It should be in the hinterland, empowering people that have devices to be able to work remotely for any organization, and it can be in their home, earning either local currency because they can work remotely, or even working for organizations outside of Nigeria. So these are the possibilities that we also need to be thinking beyond just looking at it from corporate point of view, also bringing in policies, makers, NGOs, organizations together to talk about how do we continue to leverage technology for a more inclusive digital economy. We can't hear you. It's still not up.
I think there's something wrong with her audio.
Yes.
In 2020, the most common phrase was, "We can't hear you."
Yes.
I would like to even add to what Tomiwa was saying while we are waiting for the moderator. So I'll tell an interesting story. So when I joined Meta or Facebook, for the first 6 months I worked, I never went to the office, and I never physically saw my team, my colleagues, nobody. I was literally engaging just remotely. And that's really speaking to the power of technology and parenting and how that is evolving. And I think that's one of the blessings in disguise for parents or mothers was COVID, that allowed us change, the way we saw work, because never in the past we would be very reluctant to do that. We wanted people to show up in physical spaces, but now we are beginning to accept that not all types of work, or not in every work situation, we need to be physically there. And I think that's a plus for women, because for a long time, and the issue about flexibility or flexible working hours has been contested in lots of continents, even in ours, because people felt that you are only productive if you showed up. But that's one of the things COVID taught us, that you can be productive without physically showing up. So I think it's good kudos for us, and it will probably encourage more women to join the workforce when we are creating rooms for flexible working hours. And that's just due to digital transformation. Oh, we still can't hear her.
We had.
Can you hear her? I can't hear her.
I can hear you all.
Now we can
but the
hear
moderator
you.
is talking.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Sorry about that. So thank you so much, Jane. I think you highlighted the fact that parenting is not just about mothers, it also includes the fathers, and the fact that, it's the COVID-19 pandemic has also given opportunity for women to take out more time, to do both, so you can work and still be a mother. We will take just one question from the audience because of time. Yeah, do we have time? Okay, so due to time, I would now move on to take our concluding views. I would please, there's an Olushola Bello who is raising her hand. Can we please unmute Olushola Bello before we take the closing?
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks to the panelists. Job well done. It's been very interesting. I've been on since the first section. So on this particular section on digitalization and using digital, I have an issue, and it's about how you can come in with security, because it's two sides to it. The side of, okay, you want to be global, and on trying to be global, you are exposed to so many things. Because I'll give you an instance. With the website, somebody just contacted us on the through the website and said, "Oh, your domain needs to be registered in China, and because of that, you need to do social registration. You need to pay social amount." But because we were wise enough, we said no. We just looked at it. We just closed our eyes to it, and so many other mails have come in that direction. So, which you are saying you want to be open to digitalization. So that's also. I'm just raising that's another way to be careful. In as much as we're saying we want to be digital, we want to go, because our aim when we're starting off as a startup was that we want to be known, at least starting off in Africa and then going to the rest of the world. And gradually we started with Africa and we're achieving that. But with that, we're like, okay, do we have to take some step back and at least look at what we need to do because of that opening up to us? So I think that's just my own concern about that. Secondly, I wanted to mention, but I think that has been addressed, that men also had the opportunity to bond with the children because of COVID, because working remotely. That has actually helped. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bello. Okay, Olatomiwa, do you want to please?
Yes, thank you for giving me the opportunity to address that. I think the issue of security is prevalent everywhere, including digital, which mostly talks about cybersecurity. And that is why I think earlier on when I was giving my presentation, I did mention that it's important to partner with reliable solution provider and ensure that you test and validate the security promises that the solution, is providing. So, for example, you did mention website. Yes, you can actually create a website, but you also need to look at how do you secure your website with the necessary certificates so that, other people don't clone your website. But if it's the issue is when you have a reliable solution provider that is investing in security, they have the capability to provide the required level of security for your infrastructure. And I will give a scenario. Microsoft is a solution provider. We spend a lot of money on, investment in security research, ensuring that our customers' infrastructure is secured. But you also need to know that security is not just about the technology. It's also about the policies within the organization. So in as much as the security provider is providing you the technology, it's important that people within your organization have the awareness of the tricks that, those bad people on the dark web uses to lure people into providing the information that they're not supposed to release to them. And Microsoft employ what we call zero trust policy, meaning that you don't give access until you're sure that the person is required to have the access. So normally access is denied first until authentication is done. And relying on just one form of authentication is also not a security. So all those important aspects needs to be in place to ensure that you're well secured. But what is important and what is the good news is that most cloud providers, especially, I will speak about Microsoft, provide guarantee of security to the clients because that is what they do every day. For example, we have seen over billions of signals from different parts of the world on a daily basis that is being analyzed and ensure that that is actually providing, blocking malicious intent before they get into customers. Even if it does penetrate, there is also mechanism automatically that helps to block such before it's the issue is perpetrated. But most importantly, beyond just having the technology, it's important to have policies within your organization and also educate people on, continuous education of employee on tricks and ways that people from the dark web steal information. So all those things is a combination of technology as well as policies and culture training within your organization to ensure that you're well secured.
I don't know if I could add to that.
Thank you, Olatomiwa. Dr. Ayo, please, because of time, we would have to take the closing concluding views. I would please ask you to keep it within 1 minute. We will start with you, Dr. Ayo, then to Olatomiwa, Jane, and then we'll conclude with Olu.
All right, I'll make it brief.
Do you mind if I go first? Because
oh yes, we can. Yeah, we can start with you. Then we'll move on to Dr. Ayo.
Just 1 minute. To the audience, I just want to mention something very important. There's a great opportunity for being new in digital because you do not have the legacy hold down of old technology, of old culture. Take advantage of it. There are many things that a new business can do that the old businesses, with all their resources, they will be moving in circles because they are held down by their technology, by their culture, by the way they do things, which you don't have. So the fact that you are small, the fact that you are new, the fact that you are not big means you can be the Porsche relative to a trailer. Take advantage of it, and best wishes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olu. Dr. Ayo.
All right. I was going to speak to the security, then I'll keep everything under 1 minute. Talking about security simply means as long as your business is digital, you're on the internet, you are exposed. The only way you can buy a car and you don't want your car to be scratched, you permanently keep your car in the garage. As long as you drive your car out of your garage, anything can happen to your car. But it's now your responsibility to safeguard your car. It's your responsibility to safeguard your business by talking to the right partner and talking to the right technology or cloud operator, which is what we do at Arabo, by the way. On the last note, I also heard about, is technology going to make people lose their job? The answer is that people will lose their job, people will gain jobs. It depends on how well you prepare for this. So this is a frequently asked question, and there's an example I normally give. I've seen a cartoon before where they say that a drone was taking an aerial pictures and video. And they said that back in the days, you need an helicopter and a photographer and a video man to actually go up to do that video. But they said drone has taken the job. And I'm saying it appears drone has taken the job of the pilot and the area cameraman. They said no, because someone is controlling the drone. He has gotten a job. Someone wrote the application that is within the drone. That person has gotten a job. After drone has taken aerial pictures or video, someone is still going to process the pictures or the video at the end of the day. Another person has gotten a job. It depends on how you see it and how well you prepare for digital transformation, how well you prepare for technology, as the case may be. Then, unfortunately, I'm not sure we have policy or regulatory authority around. I heard Olu and Tomiwa talking about how do we get digital transformation or technology or broadband initiative to other states. I think Jane also mentioned that there are some states that zero connectivity to internet. And we need to begin to see how we influence the policymaker in terms of what are the policies for accelerated broadband initiative, not focusing on Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, Kano, Enugu, but how do we now make sure that the saturation of internet connectivity goes across the nation? And again, this is going to be a whole lot to do with policymaker and the regulatory authority. Other than that, I think we're in the age of technology. Let's embrace technology. The worst thing that will happen is not embracing technology, apart from embracing technology. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ayo. Jane, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will start by saying that we hear digital transformation, we hear technology, then we hear disruption. Disruption is not always a bad word. Disruption means change. And sometimes change is uncomfortable. So I'm saying that it's a journey. It doesn't mean you have all the answers. And I like the last question, or the comment, the last Mr. Bello mentioned. So that is one of the outcome of change. And that's what I think Ayo was speaking to. You know, you want to buy a car, drive it out, but the risk is that you could scratch. That's what happens with disruption. While we are creating new markets, new solution, new efficiencies, we're also creating new problems that even we had no hindsight of. And one of them is security and data privacy. So even though we know we're talking about solutions that can help you, and I think Tomiwa spoke to it, that you could, one of the ways is to look for, vetted and, certified solutions that can protect you. We're also speaking, and this is also a good call out to agencies, that regulation needs to start now. And most times it is way behind the technology. We first did the self-driving cars and all the AI before we realized, what are we going to do? We're collecting people's data without permission. Why should we be collecting people's data and using it without permission? So sometimes the technology is way ahead of some of the other impacts. So what I'm asking today is that it's not a bad thing. What is important is that how are we going to take on the journey? And one way, the one good way to wrap up is that you can start small. I know we said a lot today, you should do something about the people and the culture, your process, your system, digital infrastructure. And for a business person listening to this, that becomes too overwhelming. It's almost like we're saying you should turn around your whole organization. No, we're saying that those are angles you could consider, but you should start small and celebrate your wins. So it could be basic, telling yourself that this quarter, let's look at the people. Start with small trainings, or look at the infrastructure, or look at some of our processes. But the important thing is to start. I think Ayo said that. To start, because the ship is sailed. It is not going back. So you either have to join or you'll be stuck behind. And people that get stuck behind are mostly sectors, businesses, industries that naturally would then die out.
Thank you, Jane. Start small, but make sure you start. Olatomiwa, please.
Thank you, everyone. A lot has been said today. What I would just say is that transformation or digital transformation sounds like something gigantic or something big, and it could be, say, it's for some set of organization. But the thing is, it is easier to transform than not to transform. Because if you don't transform, then the potential to cease to exist in a couple of years is very high. So all that has been said today is not just about hearing. I encourage people, expose yourself more, try to learn what technology can do for you, and don't hesitate to reach out. There's so many opportunities out there to provide more in-depth understanding on technology, especially in terms of industry. And lastly is the fact that the result of transformation far outweighs the challenges. So don't be afraid to start. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Olatomiwa. It's been a very engaging and powerful session. I'm sure that those who have joined us have also felt the impact of this session. At this point, I will then invite my co-moderator to take the keynotes and final views, as well as thank the sponsors who have made it possible for us to be here today.
Okay, hi everyone, and welcome back. That was such an engaging session. Indeed, digital transformation impacts everything, culture, security, and not embracing technology would have an impact on the economy. At this point, I would like to just quickly thank everyone who has made this event possible. I'd like to thank the speakers from the business and the technology session. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for the insights you have shared. We'd also like to thank the moderators, Anu Padike and myself, for helping to moderate both sessions. And special thanks to our sponsors, GE Electric, VFD Group, InterSwitch, Environmental Accord, Unotelos, GB Foods, and our media partners, Nairametrics, Business Insider, Business Day, Azinga Media, the streaming agency that put this together, and Pulse. And to you, our audience, thank you so much for joining and staying till this moment. We do appreciate you. Lastly, I would like to appreciate the team at Doing Business in Nigeria Conference and Morizandra Solutions for putting this event together. We hope this has been a learning opportunity for everyone, and we look forward to having you next year. So thank you and see you in 2023. Have a good evening.